Hello students! We are going to talk about DNA today. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And this is in each and every one of your cells. And it's like the instruction manual to make you who you are. It's the genetic code. And it's made of really 4 different bases. Adenine, A, thymine, T, cytosine, C, and guanine, G. So A, T, C, G. A, T, C, G. Those are the 4 bases in DNA, and every living thing has those 4 bases in them. And it's the order in which they are arranged that makes, but we share those same 4 bases with all other living things on Earth. It's the order in which they are arranged that makes the different species what they are. So DNA looks like a ladder that's twisted, a twisted ladder, and that's called a double helix because it has 2 sides. It's a helix, twisted. So it's like a spiral staircase. Looks like one of those spiral staircases. And the outside is made of sugar and phosphate. And the sugar in deoxyribonucleic acid is deoxyribose. So sugars usually end in the suffix OSE. OSE, last 3 letters, usually sugars. And phosphate is phosphorus with oxygens attached to it. So the outside, like the outside of the ladder, is sugar, phosphate, alternating. Sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. The steps of the ladder, the middle part, are the bases. And this is where the instructions are. So these are the adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, talked about. The 4 bases, A, T, C, G, those are found in the steps, the ladder. Now each step has 2 bases. So when cells divide, in other words, we call it cell division, but they're actually making more cells, so it's really they're multiplying. We call it division. When the cells divide, the DNA has to go with them, right? Because the new cells need that same DNA. So the fact that DNA is shaped like a double helix, it can split down the middle. So the ladder can open up. So each step of the ladder is made of 2 bases. So one half is one base, the other half of the step is another base. And they are matched up according to a scientist by the name of Chargaff. So they call it Chargaff's rules, or base pairing rules. And these base pairing rules state that adenine, A, has to match up with thymine, T. So A and T go together. So if you think of A, T, and T, you use AT&T phone service. AT and T. AT goes together. A and T. So if one half of the DNA is A, the other half's got to have T. They match up. C then matches with G. So cytosine always matches with guanine. C and G. So if we have a sequence of DNA, one side of the DNA, so we got DNA looks like a twisted ladder. Like this. If I untwist this ladder, it's like this. If I cut the ladder in half, I'll only look at one half here. It will look like this. each one of these is a base. Okay, now for now, since I'm just showing how they match up, the order doesn't matter. However, if this is A, then we have the other side of the DNA. This would have to be T. If this is C, the other side of DNA would have to be G. If this is G, the other half would have to be C. If this is T, the other half would have to be A. If this is A, the other half would have to be T. If this is C, the other half would have to be G. So this is just showing the base pairing rules. All right, so A matches T, G and C go together. And this is important to know because sometimes it doesn't happen this way, and those are mutations. So instead of A matching with T, there's a mistake. It matches with C. That's a mutation. Most of the time, mutations are not helpful and they're not harmful. They're harmless, most of them. However, there's some cases when there's a mistake in the base pairing that causes harmful mutations. We're going to look at those later. All right, but for now, remember, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is in each and every one of your cells, and it's in the nucleus of the cells. There is DNA in the mitochondria, but usually when we're talking about the DNA of the cell, we're talking about the nuclear DNA. It's DNA in the nucleus of the cell. But there is mitochondrial DNA, which is in your mitochondria. The mitochondrial DNA is interesting because it actually is passed maternally. So your mother passed her mitochondrial DNA to you. Passed the maternal side, because if you think about fertilization, when you have an egg and sperm, when they unite in fertilization, the sperm only injects its DNA into the egg. So the egg cell has all the other parts of the cell, which is mitochondria. The sperm does not inject its mitochondria during fertilization. It only injects its nuclear DNA into the egg. So that mitochondrial DNA is in the egg cell, which is female, which is the mother side. And that is why mitochondrial DNA is passed along through the maternal side. But nuclear DNA is in the nucleus of your cells. And it's interesting that red blood cells actually, as they mature, they lose their nucleus. And scientists believe they do that because it allows for more space inside the cell to store hemoglobin, which carries oxygen throughout the blood. So mature red blood cells will not have a nucleus, but they do when they are first produced, they have a nucleus. So really all cells have DNA. Bacterial cells do not have a nucleus. So if we look at the two main types of cells, we have the prokaryotes, which are the bacteria, like we talked about, remember before, like streptococcus, pneumococcus. If you've got pneumonia or strep throat, these are caused by bacteria. They're prokaryotes. They do not have a nucleus. However, they do have DNA, which is not inside a nucleus. Eukaryotes, are like us, have cells with a true nucleus. So their DNA is protected inside the nucleus. But DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid.